Hey everybody, my name is Austin. I am the social media manager here at the DCPA, and I'm coming to you live from Facebook. Today, I am super excited to be joined by the wonderful Kelly McAndrew, who plays the role of Martha in the DCPA Theatre Company's production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. So let's go ahead and welcome Kelly to our stream. Hi, Kelly.
Hi. Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing super well. I have to just say before we dive in that I just saw Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf this weekend, and I am obsessed with it. It was so good.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much. We had a really amazing opening weekend. So thank you for being part of the audience there. Yeah, it's a beast of a play, but it is pretty amazing to do.
It is a beast of a play. So first things first, I think let's just talk about what is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, because despite the title, it's not about Virginia Woolf, right?
It's not about Virginia Woolf. And I love Virginia Woolf, and I've read a lot of her books, but it has nothing to do with her. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is a play that Edward Albee wrote in 1962 about a middle-aged married couple in a small New England college town. The husband George is an associate professor at the college, and Martha, his wife, is the daughter of the president of that university, and they have been married for 23 years. And as I've said before, hilarity ensues. No, it's a really hilarious, violent, moving look inside the relationship between these two people. The play starts at 2:30 in the morning at their home, just on the campus of the college. And not long after coming home from a party at Martha's dad's house, she informs George that they have guests coming over at 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
So those guests, Nick and Honey, are then treated to the marriage of George and Martha, and the love and the hate and the conflict that goes between them.
Yeah. Fantastic. And it's so much fun to watch. It's almost watching a tennis match, just watching the two of them back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I mean, Edward Albee, I think, was only 33 years old when he wrote this.
Oh, wow.
He had these friends that he knew that seemed to kind of thrive on this like verbal. They were a married couple and they loved each other very much, but they could go after each other. And I think Edward Albee he knew the line between realism and absurdism, as right. And I think he was really interested in looking at what it would be like if two people who'd been married for so long had to entertain themselves with intellectual mind games and sparring and respected each other and admired each other for how far they could go with that, whether it be cruelty or sexuality or whatever might happen in the course of a 2.5-hour evening with strangers in your house. Because who hasn't been there, Austin? Come on.
Who hasn't been there? Who hasn't been there? So talk a little bit more about your character, Martha. What is she like? Who is she really?
She's a saint. No, Martha, I will say, first of all, Martha is, for people that are in theater, who know theater, or fans of theater, Martha's one of those roles, one of those women that has been written for theater that if you feel like you line up with it, that if you feel like you want to take a chance at her, it is what we call a bucket list role. Yeah. That it's something, I read this play for the first time when I didn't read it in college. Somehow I had managed to miss it. So I read it when I was in my late 20s, and I was being a reader for a production that they were doing at the Guthrie, and they were auditioning for it in New York. Okay. And I read it over the course of one afternoon in a bookstore. And I was in my 20s, and I just remember thinking, someday I've got to try and sink my teeth, lady. She is... I think that, one of the things George says very early on in the play is Martha is a remarkable woman. And I think he means that on a lot of levels.
Absolutely.
She's the daughter of the president of a university. She was raised by a single father, the president of a university. She went away to college, came back to that town, that small town, and at the time being what it was, I mean, she was born in 1910. And so we've gone back to that college in the early 30s. And there was no opportunity for her to be a professor at that college. And really, there were no jobs available to her in the social strata that she was living in. So she sort of had to be the hostess, and she had to get married. And so I feel like she definitely, when she met George, she married for love. She fell head over heels in love with him, and then had to deal with the disappointments that happened in a marriage invariably. And I remember when we were early talking about it with Margot, our incredible director, Margot Bordelon, she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think it kind of reminds me a little bit too of like, it's another theater reference, Hedda Gabler, that like this is a woman who is brilliant, but doesn't have anywhere to put that. And therefore, this sort of brilliance ends up coming out in a lot of alcohol and a lot of rage and a lot of dark, dark humor."
Yeah.
And she has this incredible sparring partner in her husband. And that's, I think, what keeps them together for 23 years.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that this is a bucket list role. I remember this is the first time I'd seen the production live, but seeing the movie was my first exposure, and just being gobsmacked by what was going on in this film or, in the play.
Yeah, that movie is iconic. And Mike Nichols was so smart doing it in black and white, and it's always so different when you put a play on screen. They leave the house, in the stage version, it's no exit. There's no getting out of the house.
No getting out.
No getting out. Yeah, I ran into a friend of mine before I came out here to do the show that was so excited that I was getting to do it. And he said that back in college, he and his friends, they were all theater students, would watch the movie and try to match them drink for drink.
Oh my goodness. That's the ultimate drinking game.
And, Edward Albee always contended that, Martha's not, he kept saying, she's not drunk. She drinks a lot. She's not drunk.
Right.
She has 11 gins.
I was going to ask, I'm sure you're very aware of how many drinks there are.
Yeah, she has 11 gins. And I have never tried to see what would happen to me if I had 11 gins. But I decided that as the night wears on, like physically there's that exhaustion that happens, but this sort of mental acuity just kind of like deepens almost,
Well, so I wanted to come back around. You mentioned Margot, who I agree, brilliant director. I wanted to talk a little bit about how funny the show is. Now, obviously the play is heavy and it's dark, but I was surprised at how funny it was. How did you as a company balance the heaviness with that comedy really that's there?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm so glad that that's coming across. Back to when I was in my late 20s and I read the play, I was howling with laughter reading this play. I think there is something about that quick, dark humor, that way, the one-upmanship that can happen, just that having the exact right thing to say at the right time, that can just slay. And Margot said that right away, and I was so happy, what she said. And, I think too that, I was approaching this from the very beginning of, yes, obviously people think of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and they think of huge giants fighting people, and that's definitely there. But it's not a fight until it becomes a fight. I miss two people coming home from a party and a woman who really wants to figure out what the name of a Bette Davis movie is.
Right.
You know, and it's just that's what needs to happen, you know, and then she
Right.
needs to get ready for the guests. And then the guests come and she needs to entertain the guests. And then things start to turn. But it
Right.
doesn't get bad until it gets bad, and you can't let it. And Margot came up with it, or I don't think she came up with this phrase. I think she had learned it as she was going along in her work as a director. But to approach the beginning of this play with the speed of fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that these are people that just know how to talk, know how to go, are amuse the hell out of each other, sometimes with their most biting things, like how funny I find it when he tells me I'm going bald.
Right.
It's just, and that we enjoy each other so much in that way. It's almost like, you know, and then the guests arrive and the thing that I'm yelling when the door opens and having to, you know,
Right.
I won't say it here, but um, you
For
know,
the theater.
yes, exactly. You know, it's just that there is, and then the awkwardness of having strangers in your house and not knowing them.
Mhm.
This is something that I find absolutely hilarious, that I think, you know, you can sort of glean as it's going along. We've met these people at a party. He
Mhm.
asks me who. I say, I don't know their names, but that
Right.
we met them tonight. They arrive. Nobody introduces themselves. I
Right.
then refer to them as kids.
Uh-huh.
And it occurred to us that we never know their names.
That is super interesting and something I
He,
didn't pick up on.
he calls her honey because he calls her honey, but
Right.
that's most likely not her name. And nobody ever calls him Nick. Isn't
Fascinating.
that incredible?
That's super interesting.
Anytime George is trying to get Nick's attention, he's like, you, you. And
Right.
I call him lover, baby, and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
So
awesome.
there's so much comedy to be mined from all of that.
Right.
And I think what we did was just look for all of that too, because as anyone will tell you, if you don't find that, this play will be a slow descent into hell.
Absolutely.
Or faster.
So, or yeah, well, I mean, a 3-hour descent into hell. So do you identify with Martha, or is there another character that you identify more with?
Um, I I identify with the I definitely identify with the desire for the party of Martha. I really do enjoy a
Sure.
good party. And I identify with both George and Martha's sort of bookish, nerdy humor. You know,
Yeah.
in a lot of, I mean, we are the way that in the middle of fights we'll try and correct each other's grammar.
Yes.
You know?
Right. That
Which is
sort of
something Edward Albee
intellectual.
does in all of his plays that I've always found hilarious, and it sometimes
Mhm.
is real. You know, sometimes you'll be fighting and be like, "Wait, is that the right word? Well, let me get back to
Totally.
being mad at you now." Um, uh, and you know, I mean, there's so many decisions that I've made about Martha that are just the positive ways to look at somebody who can be incredibly cruel, and I don't, I don't jibe with cruelty in my life, but I understand what can push disillusion
Right.
and a disappointment,
Mhm.
and you know, the discoveries of the things that have been disappointments, because when people disappoint me, it can really crush me.
For
I
sure.
also find interestingly, if you're paying it, like George, Martha's loyalty to George is
Mhm.
unparalleled.
Right.
And even though she has so much rage and disappointment going on, there is so much love there. And so I feel like I identify with how, like, the depth of how Martha can love. But again, not in necessarily how it's expressed.
Right. Exactly. It's the expression that is perhaps different.
Yeah.
Well, we over here at the Denver Center put together a little BuzzFeed quiz for folks to take to see which character they are most like. And I thought it would be fun for us to take it and see what you get.
Okay. What did you take it?
I did. I will tell you afterwards,
Okay.
after you take it, what I
Right.
got.
Okay, I'm nervous.
Um,
Oh, I'm nervous. Okay. All right, here we go.
all right. No pressure. There are no wrong answers.
All right.
But first one, what is your drink of choice?
Oh, vodka martini, extra olives.
Extra olives. I love that. How well would you perform in a debate?
I would definitely win.
You would definitely
I would
win.
definitely win. I would definitely win.
I love that. I love your confidence. There was no hesitation, which probably speaks to the fact that you would definitely win.
Yes, I did that forensic stuff in high school a little bit. John and I were talking about that, John who plays George. But it was just called speech and debate when I did it. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. All right. What was your favorite subject in school?
English, no question. I mean, theater, but English, yes.
Right. The English for the sake of this 4-option quiz.
Yeah.
Right? What is your Hogwarts house?
Oh, this is funny. Isabella, who plays Honey, is my dressing roommate, and Cammie and Marissa do hair and wigs and wardrobe, and they're all very younger than me, and
Sure.
they're big Harry Potter fans, and they were talking about their houses and who they were, and I am a huge Harry Potter fan too, and I sort of just jumped in with I am so Hufflepuff because again I really feel like Hufflepuff's the party house.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, God knows you want to be Gryffindor, but I just feel like I would jive more with those wizards.
Yeah. Hufflepuff is really just there to have a good time, right?
So, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Hufflepuff it is. All right. What is your favorite season?
God, this is hard. I am going to say winter.
All right.
Which probably, God, it's between winter and summer.
Interesting, which are very different.
I know. I think I've come to appreciate winter more. I'm from Southern California originally.
Oh, okay.
And then moved to the East Coast in my for school and stuff like that. So I feel like I've come to appreciate it more. And I also feel like because of climate change, it's just we're losing so much of it.
Sure. That's a good point.
I'm gonna say winter.
All right, sticking with winter.
Okay.
Which animal do you most identify with?
Ooh. A bear.
A bear.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think this is the last question, so it's going to pop up. Are you ready to see your answer?
I'm terrified. I'm really terrified. Okay.
Look at that.
Oh my God, I know
it's you. I know her.
Oh my God.
That's too funny. Is that what you expected to get?
Hoping, but
Yeah.
then terrified that all of a sudden, George would show up and I'd have to eat slow,
And then you'd be dealing with that all day and
I'd just be way too understanding during the course of the show.
Well, I will tell you, I also got Martha when I took this quiz. So
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was also very happy, even though I also made the quiz. But
very good. Was it a vodka martini for you or was it bourbon?
No, it was absolutely a vodka martini.
And
I know
Martha's drink's not on there.
Right, it's not. And I put vodka martini as something a little different, trying to trip people up a little bit so they can't game the system too much. But obviously, brandy had to be present.
Right, of course. Oh my goodness, yes.
All right, super fun. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Kelly.
Austin, this was really fun.
Yeah, I'm glad we could do this.
Yeah, me too.
And for everybody watching, you can catch Kelly in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf at the Singleton Theater now through March 6th. You can get your tickets at dcpa.today/Virginia Woolf or at denvercenter.org. And as always, make sure that you hit that follow button so that you never miss our live video events. Again, Kelly, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, so happy to be here. And thank you, Denver. Please, thank you for coming out in the cold and in the winter and in the COVID to come see us. We're being really safe. And don't let the length of the play fool you. It's 3 hours with intermissions. So
yes, 2 intermissions.
It just races by.
It really does. It was 3 hours that went by very quickly.
Oh, thanks, Austin.
All right. Well, thanks again, Kelly, and take care. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.